The question landed like a casual joke in the middle of a Monday meeting, but it cut deeper than anyone realized. "Why won't you date?" his boss asked, smiling as if it were harmless curiosity. The room laughed softly. He smiled too, the polite kind that hides storms. But something in his eyes shifted, and when he finally answered, the air itself seemed to hold its breath. His name was Arav Malik, a senior project manager known for calm leadership and relentless reliability. He was the man who stayed late without complaint, the one who never missed a deadline, the one who declined every office party invitation with the same gentle excuse. People admired him, some pitied him, a few whispered about him. No one really knew him, except perhaps Mira Kapoor, his boss, who had noticed the quiet weight he carried long before that question slipped from her lips. Mira was sharp, confident, and admired in the company for building teams that felt like families. She was also recently divorced, though she never spoke about it. She believed in second chances, especially the kind you give yourself. When she noticed Arav's consistent refusal to join dinners or casual get-togethers, she assumed he was simply guarding his heart. So she asked, thinking maybe he just needed encouragement. Arav looked at his notepad, then up at her. "Because every evening," he said slowly, "someone at home is waiting to hear about my day." The laughter faded. "And if I choose myself over him even once," he continued, "I'm afraid I'll never forgive myself." Mira's smile faltered. The room fell silent. He apologized quickly, saying he did not mean to make things uncomfortable, but the damage was already done. Mira dismissed the meeting early, her heart pounding with questions she did not yet have the courage to ask. Arav became a single father 5 years earlier, the day his wife Nisha died in a car accident on a rain-soaked highway. Their son, Kabir, was barely 3 then, too young to understand why his mother never came back, too young to know why his father cried silently at night. Arav had been forced to grow up overnight. Grief did not give him time to rest. Diapers, school admissions, doctor visits, and bedtime stories filled the spaces where dreams once lived. In the early days, people told him he would eventually move on. They said Kabir needed a mother, that Arav deserved happiness too. But every time someone mentioned dating, Arav felt as though they were asking him to step out of a promise he had never formally made, but held sacred nonetheless. He promised himself that Kabir would never feel second. He promised that home would always be safe. Kabir grew into a quiet, thoughtful boy with his mother's eyes and his father's patience. Every night, he waited by the window until Arav's bike pulled into the driveway. They ate dinner together, talked about school, argued about vegetables, laughed at silly jokes. These moments were small, but to Arav they were everything. At work, Mira found herself thinking about Arav more than she should. Not in a romantic way at first, but with a growing respect and an ache she could not name. She watched how he listened, how he protected his team, how he carried responsibility without bitterness. One evening, she stayed back late and noticed his desk light still on. "You don't have to stay," she said gently. "I know," he replied, packing his bag, "but I like finishing things properly." She hesitated, then asked, "Would you like to have coffee sometime? Just to talk." He smiled apologetically. "I would, but I can't." That rejection hurt more than she expected. It was not pride that stung, but something softer. That night, Mira went home and sat alone in her apartment, realizing how deeply loneliness could echo even in a crowded city. She understood then that Arav's answer was not avoidance, it was devotion. Weeks passed. A major project collapsed when a client pulled out unexpectedly. The pressure on the team was enormous. Arav worked tirelessly, but exhaustion caught up with him. One afternoon, he received a call from Kabir's school. Kabir had fainted during assembly. Panic surged through him. He rushed out without explanation. At the hospital, the doctor said it was dehydration and stress. Kabir clutched Arav's hand, whispering, "You look scared, Papa." "I was," Arav admitted. "More than you know." That night, as Kabir slept, Arav sat on the floor beside the bed and cried for the first time in years. He realized then that strength did not mean never breaking. It meant knowing when to ask for help. The next day at work, Mira noticed his red eyes. She did not ask questions in front of others. Later, she called him into her office and closed the door. "You don't have to do everything alone," she said softly. Something in her voice broke through his defenses. He told her everything, about Nisha, about Kabir, about the fear of failing as a father. Mira listened without interrupting, tears quietly sliding down her face. "I asked you why you won't date," she said, when he finished, "but I should have asked how you're surviving." Arav exhaled, as if releasing years of silence. "Some days I don't know if I am." From that day on, their relationship changed. Not into romance, but into something equally powerful. Mira adjusted his workload, insisted he take time off when needed, and even started a flexible policy for parents in the company. Arav, in turn, found himself trusting someone again. One evening, Mira invited Arav and Kabir to a company family day. Kabir was shy at first, hiding behind his father's leg, but Mira knelt to his level and asked about his favorite superheroes. By the end of the day, Kabir was laughing freely, holding her hand as they walked. Later that night, Kabir asked, "Papa, is Mira Auntie your friend?" "Yes," Arav said. "She's nice," Kabir added. "You can have friends too." The words hit Arav harder than any question ever had. He realized then that protecting his son did not mean closing every door. It meant choosing carefully which ones to open. Months passed. Slowly, naturally, something shifted. Coffee turned into conversations. Conversations turned into comfort. There was no rush, no pressure. Mira respected Arav's pace, and Arav learned that love did not always demand sacrifice. Sometimes it offered support. The challenges did not disappear. Kabir struggled with jealousy at times. Arav battled guilt. Mira faced whispers at work, but they faced them together, with honesty and patience. They learned that healing was not a straight path, but a series of small, brave steps. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching Kabir play, Mira asked, "Do you think it's possible to love without losing what we already have?" Arav looked at his son, then at her. "I think real love makes room," he said. "It doesn't replace, it adds." Years later, when Arav was asked in another meeting why he had finally started dating, he smiled differently this time. "Because I learned that being a good father also means showing my son what healthy love looks like." The room smiled, but Mira's eyes shone with tears. She remembered the day his answer broke her heart, and how it eventually healed them both. The story of Arab Malik is not about choosing between love and responsibility. It is about understanding that the strongest hearts are not those that close themselves off, but those that protect what matters while still daring to hope. And sometimes, the question that hurts the most becomes the doorway to a life you never thought you deserved. Life did not suddenly become easier after Arav opened his heart to Mira. In fact, the days that followed felt heavier in a different way. Trust, once broken by loss, does not return quietly. It questions every smile, doubts every promise, and measures every step. Arav felt that weight each morning as he tied Kabir's shoelaces, and each night as he watched his son fall asleep. Kabir had begun to notice changes, even if he did not fully understand them. Arav was more distracted than before, sometimes staring at nothing while stirring tea, sometimes pausing mid-sentence as if caught between two thoughts. Kabir, sharp beyond his years, sensed that his father was standing at the edge of something unfamiliar. That scared him. One evening after dinner, Kabir asked in a small voice, "Papa, are you going somewhere?" Arav looked up, confused. "No, why would you think that?" "You smile more these days," Kabir said, "but sometimes you look like you're about to leave." The words pierced Arav's chest. He realized that while he was learning to open up again, his son was afraid of losing him the way he had lost his mother. Arav pulled Kabir into his arms and held him tightly. "I'm not going anywhere," he whispered. Not now. Not ever. Still, the fear lingered. At work, Mira faced her own challenges. Whispers followed her in corridors, glances lingered a little too long, and questions hid behind polite smiles. Some colleagues assumed favoritism. Others assumed romance. Mira had fought hard to be taken seriously in her career, and now she felt as though her integrity was being quietly tested. One afternoon, a senior executive questioned her decision to give Arav flexible hours. Personal sympathy should not interfere with performance, he said coldly. Mira met his gaze without hesitation. Empathy improves performance, she replied. And if we punish people for being human, we lose the best of them. It was a battle she won that day, but she knew not all battles were visible or fair. Arav, meanwhile, struggled with guilt. Every moment of happiness felt like a betrayal to Nisha's memory. He remembered her laughter, her warmth, the way she used to tease him for overthinking everything. Sometimes, late at night, he spoke to her photograph quietly, as if confessing a crime he was not sure he had committed. I'm trying to move forward, he whispered once, but I don't know if that means leaving you behind. Grief does not answer questions. It only listens. The real test came when Kabir fell sick again, this time with a lingering fever that refused to go down. Arav took leave from work without hesitation, spending sleepless nights by Kabir's bed, counting breaths, checking temperatures, bargaining silently with fate. Mira checked in every day, never pushing, never intruding, just present. One night, exhausted and overwhelmed, Arav broke down in front of her on the phone. I'm scared, he admitted. What if I can't protect him? What if loving again distracts me from being the father he needs? Mira's voice was steady, warm. Love doesn't steal strength, she said. It gives it, and you don't have to carry this alone anymore. When Kabir finally recovered, something shifted inside him too. He noticed that Mira was no longer just someone from Papa's office. She was the one who brought soup, who sat quietly and drew with him, who listened when he talked about his mother without changing the subject. One afternoon, Kabir looked at Arav and said, Mama would like her. Arav froze. Why do you think so? Because she doesn't try to replace her, Kabir replied. She just stays. That was the moment Arav understood the difference between fear and truth. The challenges they faced were not signs to stop, but lessons teaching them how to move forward carefully, honestly, together. Life was still uncertain. Pain still existed. But for the first time in years, Arav did not feel like happiness was something he had to run from. He was learning that love, when chosen with patience and respect, does not break families. Sometimes it quietly rebuilds them.